A new player on the Kindred scene, Rudi commands an impressive following as an Anarch representative for the oppressed and repressed minorities of vampire society. Though his concerns extend to Kine as well, his recent entry into Kindred existence has shown him that the fight mortals must undertake for equality are just as pressing for immortals. Rudi's nightly life hasn't changed much since the embrace. He still makes his haven in Copenhagen, still hangs with the same friends, and still attends the same clubs. He has only expanded his concerns. In addition to advocating for fellow mortal minorities, he now champions Gangrel, kept out of havens and feeding grounds by sprawl, stands up for female kindred in cities run by traditionally misogynistic elders, and encourages the adoption of progressive norms over tradition whenever possible. Some might think Rudi's combination of practicing Islam and unabashed queerness contrary, but few challenge the bare Gangrel with this notion. Fast becoming the animal du jour, Rudi wins fellow discontented kindred over with his targeted approach against elitist and Camarilla hardliners. Some European princes fear he will lead a crusade in the years to come, in an attempt to level the establishment. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness. Today is Metaplot Monday, and we're going over the Rudi Loresheet. Rudi is a NPC created for 5th edition, which I think is much needed. Not only is he up on modern concerns with the world and bringing it into the world of Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness in general, we haven't had a new NPC, especially not a heroic one, to look up to in quite some time. Being based in Copenhagen and helping out with the whole leading of the Gangrel into the Anarch movement, this Gangrel has brought himself some fame. He is a poster child for all the things that are classic, old, brittled, nasty, white, rich vampires. He's their antithesis. He's completely everything opposite of them. Not only is he young, he's black. Not only is he young and black, he's gay. Not only is he young and black, he's Islamic. That is such a stride to making sure that this character actually has concerns in the modern world where he's fighting against individuals who are still stuck in the past. Rudi is definitely a character that I can get behind when it comes to the freedom of the Anarch movement and what can actually be expected by achieving Anarch goals. Traditionally, as a storyteller, I've run Camarilla games and Sabbat games. I've very rarely ever dabbled in the concerns of the Anarchs, because in older editions there was just, I don't know what it was, but for some reason they wanted to add some type of mechanic on top of everything that they added. If you deviate from Camarilla, you have to learn some other mechanic. And when Camarilla came out, you had your basis for Vampire the Masquerade. That's fine. When Sabbat came out, it was just all steeped in all these ritual lore roles for sector morale and Valdery and things like that, and trying to get people in on a spiritual level through mechanics. But when you looked at Anarch, it was more political. You had to choose a leaning. You had to decide what faction of the Anarchs you belong to. And now they've simplified it down to, why do you need that stuff? This isn't high school politics. This is anarchy. The Anarchs were so greatly compartmentalized in the older system, and now it's every man for himself, every coterie for himself. The barons are starting to act more like princes. It's very interesting to see how more Anarch they are, that they've gotten rid of the stereotypical Anarch mechanics that they just decided to throw in there. So I do like the way that Anarchs are going about things now, and with the full introduction of Clan Brujah and Gangrel as primarily Anarch, they have something now that they didn't have in the past. Bringing NPCs such as Rudi and Theo Bell into the Anarchs has given them a legitimacy, I think, that has actually, if anything, worked on me. I'm more inclined to run Anarch now. I'm currently running Anarch in my Thicker Than Water game, where I've always had Anarchs there. I've always had James Merrick be a sitting on the fence prince for one reason or another. He's always been Anarch being blackmailed into being the prince. But I never really expanded much on that. The players in my older runs, I guess, of this game were primarily Camarilla. They had positions, they had rules, they had everything to follow. They got along with the Anarchs, which was interesting. But now that the Anarchs and the Camarilla are in full-out war, now that the Anarchs and the Camarilla are in fact their own antagonists in this game, at least until a couple of weeks when we get the Sabbat book. I just think it's very interesting that now in the Modern Knights we're dealing with the Anarch Revolt and the Inquisition again. And the way that this system is run, you can run Anarch without not knowing what to do, which was something that I was always confused about, because the political leanings and everything, it's just not something that I, as a younger individual who started role-playing, really could get behind. I wasn't ever really a political person. But now I guess we all are with the way that the world works. Anyway, so I'm just rambling on. Let's go ahead and take a dive into the Rudi lore sheet and see exactly what this Bear Gangrel can offer us. Investing one trait into this lore sheet, you get newfound rights. Flush with the success of the Gangrel clan's independence from the Camarilla. Like Rudi, you find this freedom energizing. Once per story, when striking out against or decrying the establishment, you can re-roll any one skill test dice pool. That actually comes in handy a lot, considering the fact that there's always just that one test. There's always one thing that has the ability to make or break your session. Given the fact that in the game that I'm running right now, we are definitely holding up with Anarch ideals, we could have really used this when it came to Tinia, trying to rally the Anarchs to fight back, and it didn't really work. And unfortunately, we were able to get things done, but it was a very ridiculous group effort when we got that stuff going. Investing two traits into this background, you get them and theirs. When supporting the disenfranchised or persecuted, you are the resolute champion. Perhaps you believe that vampires can only persist successfully when supporting each other, or you believe that a pack is only as strong as its weakest member. But at great sacrifice, you defend others. When a touchstone of a member of your coterie comes under threat, your ears perk up and your hair stands on end. This is a very interesting one, considering what it implies here. It pretty much says that you have such a strong emotional connection with your pack mates, with your coterie, that if somebody that is important to them is in danger anyway, you get almost like a psychic warning, like a spidey sense, telling you that something's wrong. I wonder how much that would go. If anything, I think I would end up doing maybe a wits plus insight test to see if you can tell which individual it is. But I do like this. I like the idea of you just feel something in the air that says that something is not quite right. Investing 3 traits gets you Gangrel Advocate. As Rudi does in Northern Europe, many believe that you stand for the Gangrel rights in your local domains. For good or ill, Gangrel react well to you. Add 1 die to social tests involving them. Although this reputation means that you speak for many, it also means that some hold you responsible for the actions of many. You can organize convocations and discreet truce meetings between Gangrel and Camarilla representatives with a successful charisma plus politics test. Difficulty set by the storyteller. This is neat too. I love the fact that in this system They give the politics of the greater world of darkness to the players. I love the fact that the Gangrel, for better or worse, have left the Camarilla. It's better for them, worse for the Camarilla. The idea that you could cause a truce happening, at least in an area, where Gangrel might not rejoin the Camarilla, but they might at least become favorably disposed to helping them in their times of need, is that's a big step. That's not something that you would expect a player character to have access to in the older system. So I do like the idea that the greater world of darkness is at the fingertips of the players. Investing 4 traits gets you the Bear Pack. You are, or were, a member of the Bear Pack. Hardcore Rudista Kindred, who double as howling orators and fierce combatants. Consider your fellow Bear Pack a 3-dot Mala group that actually likes getting into fights. Once per story, these modern revolutionaries, including yourself, gain 1 automatic success whenever attempting to rouse anarchs and disenfranchised mortals against the establishment. Members of the Bear Pack are feared throughout Camarilla domains, which might be both bane and boon, depending on who you talk to and if they recognize you. I think I just like the concept of this whole thing. First off, you get to use your Malas not just for information and learning, learning disciplines here and there, but you can actually use them as allies, or as, I wouldn't go as far as saying retainers, but an active member on that. That's pretty good for a 4-point merit or an advantage in the system. But the idea, I really love how it strikes home that the Anarchs not only deal with kindred concerns, that a good number of them actually deal with mortal issues, and being able to rally mortals in certain areas does make this something that is well worth it, because even though as Anarchs you may need to protect the Masquerade, if you're fighting against the Camarilla, they do too. And it might be dangerous and walking that line of breaching the Masquerade, but if you are willing to rally a gang of humans so that they are in the wrong place at the right time, you can really get the upper hand, especially with how terrified most Camarilla members are with technology and modern devices, because you might be able to get in there and actually wreck some stuff in the guise of a mortal riot or a rioting union faction or something like that, and make it so that the Camarilla are actually terrified to fight back. To keep the Masquerade, they may in fact even pull out of an area. Investing 5 points, you get Rudi's Army. Rudi's army comprises outsiders of all clans, all mortal colors and creeds. You hold sway over an arm of this paramilitary force. You can call them to act against mortal and immortal governments in many ways, from staging peaceful protests outside a governor's home, to organizing rallies against the leaders of oppressive groups. Large, unwieldy, and potentially dangerous, your brigade of the army gives you 6 dots to split among allies, influence, and contacts that can be directed, but never controlled. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the movie Fight Club with this. The idea that you've got this group that has infiltrated all factions of existence. People in the Camarilla. You might actually have ghouls who are not happy with the way that they're treated from the Camarilla. Like there are so many different things that you can do with this when you're dealing with both kindred and mortal politics and bringing down the house effectively. This is one of those dots that I would, as a storyteller, make sure that they're going to someone that you trust. There's always players that find a way to make the worst situation come from the simplest advantages. There are those players who have their finger on the button for the nuke, and they can be responsible with it. this is one of those things, because you are dealing with something that could potentially break the masquerade. You are dealing with something that could cause a large amount of either political or combat established gameplay, and you need to make sure that your game in particular is ready for that, because some people aren't. Some people who want to play this game, that we all have different play styles, and the idea that everybody is ready for several weeks of a political downfall or several weeks of open combat. Running combat is difficult. I just ran a huge combat, and I feel that I escaped that as a storyteller by the skin of my teeth, with my players enjoying it. But I think also that is a challenge for storytellers, because making combat part of the role play and not just rolling dice is a very, very important thing, which is why I really love this system. V5 has a way of handling dice in a combative situation that really kind of just makes the game worth playing, in my opinion, because it is all story over mechanics. For the most part, there are obviously mechanics are important, but being able to see what people are intending on doing and using your storytelling ability to make all of that happen at once can be very important during a combat scene. When we do the recap this week, we'll see exactly what I mean by that, I think. But that is a look at Rudi and what he has to offer. This brand new Anarch NPC from the World of Darkness is a welcome addition, in my opinion, to Theobel and Jack and Nines Rodriguez and all the other famous Anarchs out there. It's nice having an Anarch that basically has a V5 stamp on him. You know, it's nice to see that kind of thing pop up. But anyway, I am Voivode Maquette. This is our World of Darkness, and this has been Metaplot Monday and a look at the Rudi lore sheet. I'm very interested to see what you guys as storytellers and as player characters have done with this, or if this is one of those largely ignored lore sheets. I don't think the concept of using these has really taken the prominence that they deserve, and I think that's actually one of the major reasons why I'm focusing so hard on this for Metaplot Monday. But yeah, let me know exactly what you guys are doing when it comes to lore sheets in general, but this one, I want to know what's going on with Rudi in your games if you're using them. Good evening.